Hello, everybody. Welcome to our breakout room, the best of all the breakout rooms. I am Ben from VAI. Robin is also joining us to take those notes, and we are just here to kind of open up some space and chat about the school improvement process. So to get started, most of you should have received a card, a note card with a word on it. Does everybody have a note card handy? If you don't, then you get to make up your own word at random. Just pick one. Pick a word at random, get that one locked into your head. We are going to use that just kind of as an icebreaker. And we are going to play a little game called Random Analogies. So your job right now is to connect the word that you have with the school improvement process and figure out how they're similar, how they are the same. So for example, I got the word baboon, one of my favorite words. And so I have to think about how baboons are like school improvement planning. And I would say that's because baboons are social creatures, right? They like to interact with each other. And the school improvement process, when it's going really well, is also a social process as well. It's got lots of different parties, lots of different stakeholders who are all contributing to the whole. So that is how I think baboons are like school improvement processes. So if you want to take just a minute, we're going to try just sharing out. If it gets a little chaotic, we'll start raising hands. But is there anybody who'd like to break the ice by sharing their word and then how that word connects? Lorinda?
Yeah, hi, I'll share. I have Brussels sprout, and school improvement is like a Brussels sprout in that it has many layers. So you peel back the little Brussels leaves, kind of like school improvement, one layer after another.
That's a great connection. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share their word?
I'll go.
Anna.
So mine is pair of shoes.
Oh, I have that one too.
And I think because sometimes they don't match. You know, sometimes you're getting dressed in the dark, so and then you get to school and you have a pair of shoes that kind of look the same, but they don't match. So
I like that.
It's only happened one time. It's only happened one time.
But turning the lights on, that planning process is so important. Shalonda, I think I saw your hand up, right?
Yeah, so I had a fun one. My word was Beyonce.
Ooh.
And so Beyonce, she has a song, Upgrade You, and it's talking about the guy that she's dating because he got a chance to date her. His life was being upgraded. And so I think about the school improvement plan is guiding our school to taking it to the next level to raise our student achievement.
All great connections. I hope it kind of opens up this idea that, yeah, you can pick all sorts of different concepts and then use them to come at a topic from a little bit different angle. Is there anybody else who'd like to share out?
I'd like to put a spin on the Brussels sprout earlier. I got Brussels sprout as well, and I apologize. I'm in my car waiting for my kids to start their ski racing, so I apologize that I'm not fully engaged. But Brussels sprouts, I know someone said the layers, but there's not many people, honestly, that I think like Brussels sprouts, and so therefore, I relate to that to the school improvement plan. As there's not a lot of people that'll like to engage in the conversation of school improvement plan, and they may just kind of eat it when they're told to.
Maybe not the most appealing, but still something healthy to go through. Anybody else want to share out? Grace.
I have Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Carrie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I also have pair of shoes. And I was thinking that they're ever changing because I keep talking to my staff about a SIP plan isn't just something we're stuck to, that we need to constantly be revisiting and like living in and talking about. And it's not just something we do once. And I think about, I change my shoes every day. Like it's ever changing.
Taking on that idea of adaptability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being flexible. That's outstanding. And now, Grace, let's dive into your
Sorry.
idea. No, it's all right.
So mine is hamburger. I'm not really a big fan of hamburger, but I will say I will eat gourmet hamburgers just because they're juicy and they always have the freshest ingredients. And to me, what makes a great hamburger is if they have like really fresh lettuce and the juiciest patty in there. So just like a really good hamburger, a school improvement plan works really well if you have the right people in there. The best people in your team who has the right mindset, who share the same passion and who believes in the vision that you have. If you have all the right people in that team, you come up with a dream team right there for school improvement.
So when we're thinking about school improvement process, we're trying to get that gourmet burger and not the cheap fast food burger. So we're going to be thinking together about how we can accomplish that. Is there anybody else who'd like to share? Gina.
Okay.
Gina, you're on mute. Joys of Zoom.
Yeah, it always happens too. I also had hamburger, and I would just like to tag on top of what Grace had, because I kind of was on that same line. I look at it as a hamburger is, you know, if we have the meat or the main part of whatever our school improvement has to have the students as a center. So the meat I'm looking at as kind of the student education, that is going to be the center of it. But it wouldn't be a good quality hamburger if you didn't have the supporting, you know, bun, you know, so you have the community and you've got the teachers. And then of course you need to add all the condiments on there too. So the fresh lettuce and all of those things, they just add to the overall deliciousness of the burger. If we're looking at school improvement, we need to have all of those components to get the best possible school improvement hamburger.
Love that. So keeping students at the center, but also recognizing that there are diverse stakeholders involved here and making sure that we keep all those parties in mind as well. It's outstanding. Thank you guys very much for sharing that out. And let's see if we can think about the specifics of how we go about getting that gourmet burger or that great school improvement process. Who would like to share out, just in general, what does your process look like when you do school improvement planning? What sort of process does your school go through? Just in a quick sort of 1 minute summary kind of way. Gina again?
I would say, you know, making sure that you're clear on what is your vision and your mission, and then try to find some common pillars, you know, that supports those. And then you design, you know, all of the action steps that you're going to take based on those. And then I would say you have to identify where is your need. You know, so if you haven't identified your greatest areas of need, then your vision and mission statements aren't going to matter, because you aren't really trying to improve upon something. You're just saying, hey, this is what we believe in, but you've got to put your money where your mouth is.
So really being clear about your mission and your vision, and then doing a little gap analysis and figuring out where you're falling short of that aspiration. That's a really clear, really concise way to summarize that. Would anybody else like to add on to that or share their own process?
I can share. I think too, it's important because we're speaking specifically to a school improvement process, making sure that we are linking it back to the district strategic goals and making sure that there's alignment there.
Yeah, recognizing that you're part of something bigger, right? And making sure that there's that good alignment, like you mentioned. Anybody else who'd like to just share a little bit about their process? All right, then let's go on to the challenges. What sort of obstacles, impediments, difficulties do you run into commonly in school improvement planning? And we'll just let anybody who'd like to share out some of their challenges.
I would say one of the biggest challenges is would be keeping the plan alive, because we typically create it, you know, in the spring or the next year, and then coming back and just really being intentional about keeping those goals at the forefront of everything that you do can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah, it sometimes has a tendency to slide beneath kind of the day-to-day, you know, stuff that you've got to get done. But keeping that in the forefront, I think, is a really important challenge. Thanks for sharing that one. How about Melissa?
Our district has kind of been through an administrative roller coaster for the last 5 years. And at one time we had this very powerful, very strong team. And I mean, we were moving like to the top tier of things you would apply in school improvement, and they all left at the same time. And then every interim superintendent, and we went through, last year alone, we went through 4 interim superintendents. And yeah, and it was never a priority for a single one of them. Our first interim was like, no, we don't even do this here at the other district I was at. And then the next person came along and said, we don't have time for this. And then the 4 people came along and nobody knew what they were doing and it was never a priority. And now after so many years, we finally settled with one administrator, and he finally reached out to the original team in November. He's like, let's try to bring this back, shall we? So I feel bad I don't have a whole lot to share because we're very much in the starting from base zero rebuilding phase right now. And I was given the opportunity because I'm with my grad program right now. I really wanted to focus on school improvement. He's like, great, you're our district rep now, go for it. I'm like, okay, I will teach and I will take grad school classes and I will do school improvement all at the same time. So it's just getting people to make it a priority when you're in transitions. I had no idea. I didn't think that would be an issue. I never dreamed that would be an issue because it seems like school improvement is what everybody should be working towards. And I never knew that you could just toss it aside like that when it feels so much more important than that. So
yeah, that turnover certainly is a big challenge, but hopefully you're able to get some good advice from all the rich experience that we have here in the breakout room.
yes.
So
I'm writing all your notes down, everybody.
Outstanding. And I know Robin is also frantically typing over there, trying to make sure we capture all of this rich conversation. So anybody else would like to share a challenge? Gina?
I think that, let's face it, as educators, we want to do the right thing and we want to believe that our practices are good practices. It's difficult sometimes for educators to understand and reveal that, you know what, this is something that I haven't been so successful on. And so that becomes an obstacle if you're not willing to share, if there's a lack of trust, possibly with colleagues to be able to share where you're struggling and then how do we make the improvements, because we're expected as educators to know our stuff. And sometimes that's hard if to reveal yourself, to bare yourself to that, you know what, I don't always get it right. And how do I move beyond that to make positive gains? You know, I struggle because I've got some teachers who don't want to, they want to hide their maybe shortcomings. Well, you know what? I can't help you if I don't know where they are, you know? And so how do we help each other trust, number one, and then move to that point where, okay, this is how we can do it. And you got to be willing to do the work.
Yeah, that honesty and that trust, and then that growth, establishing that growth mindset. Those are difficult challenges to overcome. But so let's get to some of the successes. What have we done? What have you done with your school or your district that has really helped overcome those challenges, or just been a really successful practice that you'd like to share out?
We're not there yet, but first year, last year at the high school level for me, I had been primary all the way through elementary, and then was changed to a K-12 situation. Last year, I just had to listen. The best that I could do is just to listen. So that's one way that I think we're moving in that direction. We're not there yet, but just trying to listen and concede sometimes. You have to concede on certain things while still pushing forward to some common goals. So that's the way I'm working towards it, but we're not there yet. And I can't say that, you know, we're going to get there in 1 year, but you keep taking baby steps.
Great point. How are we making sure that people are having their voices heard, and that we're being transparent about the fact that we're interested and we're listening? Does anybody have any practices to recommend there?
Jamboard.
Yeah, that's a good one. Jamboard, a tech tool, if you're not familiar with it, part of the Google suite. It's just a great way to allow people to get ideas out there and to share with others. Anything else that's been successful about kind of getting input, allowing people to share their voices, or anything else that's been successful in your experience about the school improvement process?
So for our school improvement plan, we transitioned from having like global goals to making them very specific and based off of the standards. And so we're using end of the year common summative assessments to measure our effectiveness. We'll do a pre and a post, and that's been helping us to just keep our school improvement goals right in front of us because we're teaching the standards, using the assessments, and can constantly come back and speak about students' progress on that.
Really clear with those kind of goals and expectations, and then it sounded like you're getting kind of constant checkpoints along the way.
Correct, because like I said, we have our pre and our post, and when our school improvement team meets, just where's your grade level at in regards to the standard, how's the assessments coming, just those keeping the conversation going because the standards are relevant because that's what the teachers are using, of course, to teach.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier making sure that this is still at the front of people's minds and having those checkpoints along the way. That's a really wise practice to help encourage that to stay, right at front and center in people's attention. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Any other best practices for school improvement?
So last year, I just switched positions this year. So last year, I actually led our school improvement planning process. And something that we had done differently, because in the past, school improvement plans were written, it was kind of in a silo, not everybody was involved, and one person reviewed it. Last year, we had a teaching and learning committee, and we developed a vision and our core values together and collaboratively wrote our school improvement plan. And we circled back on it monthly. So these were our action steps that we were going to take. Where are we with this? Are we doing what we say we're going to do? And we were transparent with the staff on it. So whenever we'd have PD, we'd always circle everything back to that school improvement process. And you know how everybody always wants a new program for this or a new program for that, support money here and there. Like it would funnel through. Like we find value in that. However, this year this was our focus. Remember, this was the focus for this year. Next year it's science or, whatever it might be. But like that was really helpful and beneficial.
Hopefully that's part of that school improvement process is allowing you to focus, right? So we're not always getting pulled in a million directions. Outstanding point. Anybody else?
I'll piggyback off of what Rachel said when we look at our school improvement plan, and I'm here in Michigan, and Michigan has a blueprint network that our district has adopted, and it really puts systems into place, and it's collaborative systems that funnel down from top administration all the way down to anybody and everybody in the building. Everybody's a teacher in our buildings. Doesn't matter if they're food service, custodian, bus driver, teacher, ancillary support, doesn't matter. And everybody having a voice was key. And so having systematic action teams that focus and have voice in small group settings where everyone's voice can be heard was very intentional. And it's proven to grow our school improvement plan, or school improvement that's going to lead to a better school improvement plan. Let me put it that way. It's my third year as a building administrator, so it's still working in a process, but making sure that every voice is absolutely 100% heard, even in a small setting, where then your leadership team can come back and start building your school improvement plan as a leadership team, and then going back to those small groups where they can have a voice and just constantly revisiting monthly. We also have our norms and our strategies on display in our agendas, in every staff meeting, in every possible visual area that we can remind everybody why and what we're doing.
So having a mechanism in place, where people can have their voices heard, and then those filter up to even all the way up to top level administration, and then just being really explicit, really intentional, really clear about what your goals and your norms are, and sharing those out broadly. I'm looking up and I'm seeing about a little less than a minute remaining in our breakout room. I hope that this was a valuable conversation, that you're able to get something from some of your colleagues here. Quite often we do this in isolation. It's good to just connect and to hear about what other people are doing. So I hope this was valuable. And again, we're going to share out a synopsis of all of the conversations that have taken place today. And I believe we are heading back to the main room. So I will see you all out there soon.